This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter and welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, October the 17th, in 1989, the world was shocked. You could say it was quaking. But anyway, this is not just a sporting thing. This is a real life tragedy, in a sense. So before Game 3 of the 1989 World Series between the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants, a massive earthquake happened. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the World Series thing. This is more about the earthquake and the ramifications. So I just want to say that Oakland did sweep the San Francisco Giants eventually, 4-0. It was the first sweep in 13 years since the Reds taking care of the Yankees. And the A's never trailed at any point. Only the third time. It was the third time that it happened, but actually there was another team. So the 1963 Dodgers, the 1966 O's, and the 2004 Red Sox never trailed in the World Series, even in half an inning. This was the fourth time that the Giants and A's would meet in the World Series, and the first since 1913, because the Giants were in New York and the Athletics were in Philadelphia. The Giants took care of the A's in 1905. The A's getting revenge in 1911 and again in 1913. This would be historical because the 76-year gap between the A's and Giants matchup in a World Series was the longest until 2018 when the Red Sox and Dodgers met for the first time in 102 years in the World Series. Of course, this was the World Series that Faye Vincent had to oversee as commissioner as Bart Giamatti passed away in September. This was basically the Bay Bridge series because, San Francisco and Oakland were on opposite sides of San Francisco Bay, connected by the Bay Bridge and the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, for which Bart Simpson was named for, allegedly. Anyway, it was the first crosstown World Series since 1956, seeing the Yankees and Dodgers. So anyway, I was there. Of course, October 17th happened to be the 6.9 earthquake that struck the Bay Area, causing damage to Oakland and San Francisco. Candlestick Park actually suffered damage to its upper deck as pieces of concrete fell at the top of the stadium and power was knocked out. The game was postponed and would have to resume on the 27th. So it took 10 days before they ended the World Series. And at the time, October 28th was the latest end date for a World Series. But that was surpassed in 2001 with it ending on November the 4th. Well, that was because it's September 11th, so it had to have a 7-day thing. So San Francisco and Oakland both were decent teams. The Giants held off a late charge from the San Diego Padres for the division, then took care of the Chicago Cubs in 5 games in the NLCS. This, of course, is significant because this is the first time the Cubs played a playoff series at home with lights. Mostly it was by MLB's demand because with night baseball, postseason baseball being the it factor, the Cubs could have been forced to play in St. Louis with their playoff games. So anyway, the Oakland A's won easily in the AL West and crushed the Toronto Blue Jays in 5 games. Ricky Henderson was just out on fuego. So game 1 happened. Of course, there was a tribute for Bart Giamatti. Yale's a cappella group, the Whiffin' Poofs, sang the national anthem in honor of Bart. So anyway, Dave Stewart would face Scott Garrett, and it wasn't even close. So it was 5-0. Game 2 saw Oakland also win 5-1 as Mike Moore took care of Rick Russo. The funny thing is, the ceremony first pitch was thrown by Chris Drury, who was the Little League World Series MVP, but later became a hockey star. That's funny. So anyway, now on to why we're here. October 17th, 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake at 5:04 Pacific time. Eastern time, it wouldn't make sense. But anyway, Game 3 was supposed to start half an hour later at Candlestick Park. And thousands of people were in the stadium, obviously. And this was the first major earthquake to be broadcast by live TV. And they actually said that the timing of the series was a lucky break that prevented massive loss of life. Because the key is that many people on both sides of the bay left work early or were staying late to participate in after-work group funerals and parties for the World Series, reducing the traffic that was on the collapsed freeways in San Fran and Oakland. So when the earthquake hit, ABC was talking about how Oakland was dominating. Tim McArthur was presenting a highlight package. And Al Michaels just said, I'll tell you what, we're having an earth. And then the feed cut out. It was replaced with the green ABC Sports graphic for technical difficulties. Thankfully, though, everything was okay. Al Michaels, who worked for the Giants on TV, said that the earthquake was the greatest opening in history of television, bar none. So anyway, the group of Michaels, McCarver, and Jim Palmer had to grab onto each other. By contrast, the broadcasting team in the CBS radio booth next door, Jack Buck, Johnny Bench, and John Rooney, were out the air when the earthquake started because their show was pre-taped. All that. So anyway, ESPN had live coverage of the series, but not the game. But it was just the pregame. Was interrupted when Joe Torre interrupted Joe Torre's pregame report on the field. So this was terrible and all that. I mean, the Bay Bridge took a massive collapse and all that. You cannot imagine how bad it was because, after all, people moving from Oakland to San Francisco and vice versa, they didn't have a way of going. So anyway, Dave Vincent had to postpone Game 3, obviously. It was supposed to be for 5 days, but then they added another 5 days because of bad delays in transmission links. So anyway, they even thought about putting the World Series at a neutral site after the earthquake, but they didn't. Players of the A's went back to Oakland, but they had to go through San Jose, adding an extra 90 minutes because of the Bay Bridge. So anyway, it would hurt hard. Stevie Wonder was supposed to be the national anthem singer for Game 3, but pulled out, and his place, the Gatlin Brothers, sang Game 3. The Loma Prieta earthquake was hit 6.9. The Bay Bridge collapsed. San Fran and Oakland were in chaos. If you read Tom Cheek's book, Road to Glory, you could probably guess that Tom Cheek was actually there. Him and Jerry Hallworth were there doing radio stuff for Back to Toronto. So anyway, they ended up being in the booth next door to CBS Radio, and when they tried to get out because of the thing, they bonked right into the radio people of Johnny Bench and them. Tom Cheek even says that he had to go on a ferry off of a bus because, the BART was breaking down and night was falling, so there was there weren't really any lights. Thankfully, Candlestick Park had minor damage, which was amazing because it could still hold the World Series and help the Giant and help the 49ers out. So the stadium was deemed safe to use. Emergency responders who aided her during the quake threw out the first pitch. Of course, Stewart and Garrett would be back on the mound because obviously the 10-day delay. You have time, you can bring the guys there. Well, the A's won 13-7. It was a home run fest. All that. 7 home runs combined. It set the record for combined home runs hit in a World Series game and tying the most by a single team in the World Series game. The Yankees won Game 4 of the 28 World Series against the Cardinals in 5 games. Well, with 5 home runs. However, 2017 Game 2 would see the Astros and Dodgers combine for 8 home runs, although in extras. Oakland would sweep the Giants 9-6. Nell Carter sang the national anthem and Willie Mays throughout the ceremonial first pitch. So this was the last time Candlestick Park had a World Series game, as the rest of the National League pennants for the Giants, 2002, 2010, 2012, 2014, were at Oracle Park. The other park, of course. Oakland easily took care of San Francisco. And this would be the last time ABC would broadcast the World Series and the last game on the network until 1994 with the baseball network. CBS would gobble up baseball TV rights for the World Series and then basically just give up on it after 3 years of cost problems. So, Al Michaels was nominated for an Emmy Award for news broadcasting, giving the eyewitness account of the aftermath at Candlestick Park. So, this was amazing, and all that. The A's would come back to the World Series in 1990 trying to defend their title, but since he swept them. And Oakland's never been to the World Series since. The Giants would not make it back to the World Series until 2002 when they got bit by the rally monkey. So San Francisco didn't really do too well otherwise. But yeah, that's just the story of the 89 World Series and the quake that made things shake. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.